F1 was back with a bang at the weekend with the US Grand Prix in Austin, Texas, bringing fans some much-needed race action after the break, and there was plenty of drama to get stuck into. It was Ferrari who came out on top, taking out first and second place. Charles Leclerc secured the win with his teammate Carlos Sainz finishing in second, while Red Bull's Max Verstappen finished in third, extending his lead over McLaren's Lando Norris in the Drivers' Championship. It was, of course, the battle between Verstappen and Norris that was the big takeaway from the weekend, after the McLaren driver was handed a 5-second penalty in the last lap for leaving the track and gaining an advantage over his championship rival. In layman's terms, Lando Norris was slapped with a penalty that put him in fourth place because he overtook Max Verstappen off the track. It was this controversy that had the motorsport world talking, questioning, was this the right decision from the stewards? Joining me now is talkSPORT Driving's very own reporter, Jon Jackson. John, the weekend that was, let's dive straight into this penalty. Walk us through it.
Yeah, so another exciting race in Austin, Texas in the Formula One World Championship, the US Grand Prix. And the big talking point is the two magnets that are Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Wherever they're fighting, whether it's for the championship, whether it's out on track, whether it's for pole position, these guys are together, right? And it turns out in the end they were fighting for third place. However, they started the race on the front row. Lando Norris on pole position, Max alongside him second. Obviously, Max had won the sprint race on the Saturday. They go into the first corner. It's a huge elevation up into the first corner in Austin, Texas. They push each other wide, and it's actually Charles Leclerc that goes and gets the race lead in the Ferrari, and that basically sets up his race win, which we'll get onto in a second. But for those two drivers, Lando from the start felt like he was pushed wide by Max on the first corner. Not so sure about that one, but it was lap 52 that the big incident happened on, where Lando was trying to go around the outside of Max. Max went a little bit wide on one of the corners and actually went slightly off the track. That then pushed Lando wide. Lando went around him off the track, and, you know, if you're watching as a fan, you probably think, well, look, they've both gone off. One's gone a bit wider and got the position. Well, they were both in the wrong. They both went off. So surely Lando should keep that position. He did. He didn't give it back, finished the race third, but he did get a 5-second penalty. And unfortunately, for McLaren and Lando fans, that penalty is correct. Because if you look at the rules, whichever driver at a corner gets to the apex first, it's their corner. So it doesn't really matter what happens. Obviously, Max does go wide, which is sloppy, or maybe it was very clever driving from him, very defensive driving. So Lando should have given that place back. I'm dubious as to whether McLaren maybe thought it was worth chancing it because they were the faster car. Maybe they could make up 5 seconds before the end of the race anyway. There were still enough laps left to potentially do that. And then if they got a 5-second penalty, oh well, they still get the podium. However, they only ended up making 4.1 seconds. So unfortunately for them, Max Verstappen gets the third place. And the most important thing about that is that Max has to just finish ahead of Lando in races. It doesn't really matter where they are. As long as he's finishing ahead of his title rival, he will become a 4-time Formula One world champion. And that's exactly what happened this past weekend. He's actually extended his lead now. So he goes into the last 5 races of the season with 2 sprint races with a 57-point gap. And it looks most likely that Max will win this championship.
But John, even with most of the weekend takeaways being centred around the 5-second penalty, the big winner of the event was Ferrari.
It was another fantastic weekend for Ferrari with a 1-2, Charles Leclerc having a faultless drive, making the most of the tussle between Max and Lando on the very first corner of the race to go through. And that move really set up his race win. Had a bit of a battle with Max. It looked like he would come under a bit of pressure with the safety car earlier on, but he managed to pull out a gap at the end of that lap to mean that Max couldn't even get the DRS, and showed great pace and continued and won the race. Carlos Sainz as well, some great strategy from the guys and girls at Ferrari to pit him before Max Verstappen, do the undercut successfully, and basically made him finish second, so a 1-2. However, no one is talking about Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz finishing 1-2 because everyone wants to talk about Max and Lando. The thing that no one is talking about is that Charles Leclerc is 22 points behind Lando Norris in the championship. So as much as everyone's talking about Max versus Lando, well, hang on a minute. Charles Leclerc has won 3 races this year, same as Lando Norris, and he's only got a 22-point gap. So if Lando continues to finish a little bit further back from Max Verstappen while Charles Leclerc keeps winning races, then he's going to kind of sneak out of nowhere, and potentially it could actually be a battle between Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. Very unlikely. I think Max Verstappen is still going to win this championship. However, it's worth keeping an eye on.
Absolutely. Too much focus seems to be on Norris and Verstappen, while Charles Leclerc could emerge as the big rival for the Red Bull driver for the championship. John, can you walk me through Liam Lawson's debut on the track? The 22-year-old Kiwi didn't take long to make an impression in his first weekend as a full-time F1 driver for RB, replacing Daniel Ricciardo.
We've seen Liam Lawson on the Formula One grid before. He stood in for Daniel Ricciardo last year when Daniel Ricciardo broke his hand at Zandvoort, and Liam Lawson is now a full-time Formula One driver. So he made his kind of second debut, as it was, with the RB team and actually did fantastically well. He had a 60-point grid penalty because he took loads of new parts for the car this weekend. So he started the race 19th because George Russell started from the pit lane because he smashed his car up in qualifying. For Liam Lawson to make his way from 19th up to 9th and finish the race, getting 2 points for that finish, shows you already that RB, Red Bull, have made the right decision in getting rid of Daniel Ricciardo. As much as it might have pained them, as much as it might hit their marketing efforts, and as much as it might have annoyed people from Texas, because Daniel Ricciardo is incredibly popular in Texas, they made the absolute right decision to get rid of Daniel Ricciardo because Liam Lawson is hungry. We know he can do it. He's already proven it last year. And you know what? He will be gunning for that second seat alongside Max Verstappen. He won't settle for RB. He wants the main role.
John, where do you see Franco Colapinto's career heading for next year's season? Do you see the rookie actually securing an F1 seat next year, even if it means booting off a more experienced driver?
Logan Sargent was given the boot by Williams 4 races ago. Franco Colapinto stepped up from their young driver program in F2, and so far in 4 races, he has scored points in 2 of those races, and at times he's outperformed Alex Albon. Now we know Williams next year will not have a seat for him. They've got Carlos Sainz coming in to go alongside Alex Albon, but James Vowles, their team principal, has made it very obvious he would be happy for Franco Colapinto to drive for another team. Now, the only other team with a seat for next year is Sauber. That was thought to be Valtteri Bottas' seat if he still continues to perform in a very bad car this year. However, when you sort of weigh it up, do you want Valtteri Bottas? Yeah, loads of experience. However, you've got this new, fresh young kid that's proving he can do it, very attractive to sponsors, more longevity. It's a tough decision, isn't it?
Just finally, John, is there anything else we should know about from the weekend?
I think a special mention this weekend needs to go to George Russell, because for him to crash out earlier in the weekend, start from very last in the pit lane and make his way up to 6th place while his teammate Lewis Hamilton ended up crashing at the same place during the race, I think is a hugely commendable achievement. And not a lot of people are talking about that. Again, they're sort of that achievement is behind the pecking order from Ferrari getting a 1-2, behind Lando and Max having a bit of a battle and the 5-second penalty for Lando Norris. But yeah, George Russell could be considered driver of the weekend, I think, if Charles Leclerc hadn't been so strong, because to go from the pit lane to 6th is a pretty decent achievement.